Hi guys, the Angry Veteran here. Just been looking at, basically been watching what's been happening with the Senate inquiry into the veteran suicides. Basically, I've been watching the section where the Defence Force, where you got a Rear Admiral and a Vice Air Marshal sitting there, and a couple other people sitting there discussing like the transitional periods from getting out of the Defence Force, and what is basically what happens between a member when they obviously discharge from Defence to civilian life. And obviously in the case of if there's something medically wrong with you, what to expect from your transition. So in the way of, will they provide you with like counselling services on like your claims if you're injured, or obviously if you've got PTSD, obviously they've also gone into the fact that you may not be discharged if you have PTSD. They've gone on to say that they're talking about people that have PTSD and have quite comfortably continued to go back at working for Defence Force even though they've got PTSD. I find that hard to believe, but hey, I don't know, that could be the case. I don't know. Some of the other shit is just a load of crap. Basically, they've gone on to say that basically they are providing, when someone discharges, they are helping people with the paperwork to make sure that they are leaving with their medical file, that their claims are in with DVA prior to their separation, so prior to their discharge officially happening, so that by the time that they actually are a civilian, that all the hard shit is out the way, so that all these stresses that you have aren't there. For all you dickheads that are sitting there at the panel, I don't know what fucking dream world you're living in, but that does not happen. To be quite honest, all my bosses that I had in my department didn't give a fuck. They couldn't care less what happened to me. The transition side of it, no one explained to me that I was injured, so get your claims in. The only reason that I even got some of my claims in prior to discharge is because I was worried what I was going to be doing when I got out, because I had a fucked shoulder and a fucked back. What was I going to do? Like, I'm screwed. I'm getting out. I can't stand to be in the Defence Force anymore because of the way I'm treated. And before anyone comments about discipline and everything else, I grew up in a disciplined home. I had no problem with the Defence Force discipline side of things. I didn't mind doing marches. I marched with pride. I did all the things. I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to be in the Navy and further my career. What I couldn't stand was the moment I got injured, I became an inconvenience to everyone within my department. I couldn't help that I was injured, but yet I tried to do everything in my power. I attended all my appointments that I needed to attend. I attended my physio appointments that I needed to attend, and I still got basically shafted every chance they got. Oh, he's injured, so he can hold a duty. It's like, well, technically I can't because I was a medcat status, but they still stuck me there anyway. Then, okay, I'm getting off topic a little bit. Then we've gone on to ask, like, Senator...
In another in-Senate inquiry into the RTI, a former ADF medical officer, Dr Scally, a GP in Parkes, has made the allegations that medical records are illegally altered and doctors are ordered by commanding officers what to write on patient files. He writes, and I quote, medical officers being forced to change clinical decisions, not overruled but enforced, was commonplace in the military. Dr Scally is a GP at Parkes, New South Wales, served for 21 years in infantry.
So basically, yes, But I'll emphasise this: they were not fucking forced. Basically, this happened to me actually, and this is the reason I had 2 shoulder operations, and this is the reason why I'm in chronic pain every fucking day of the week, and then I have fucking pain medication that I've got to take that still doesn't fucking touch the sides. Is because I injured myself. I had surgery. I was getting physio treatment for that injury. My surgeon had basically he basically come out and said, obviously with the dislocation and with having surgery and everything else, you never expected to make 100% recovery, but to a certain extent you're expected to make, like in my situation I was expected to make that sort of 100% recovery. So I was sort of expected to get back that normal life. So almost as if like the injury never happened and I could continue about my life and we should be fine. Now I was 3 months after surgery, and I was due for a mech review. I was mech 301. I went in for my mech review with the civilian GP on base, and I'm quite happy to name him. His name was Dr. Spicer, and he was based out of Cairns. Real asshole. So thank you to him, because he basically fucked up my life. He went through the mech review process and deemed me unfit. Mech 301 for another, 8 weeks or whatever it was. Due for another review in 4 weeks or something like that. Continue with physiotherapy, blah blah blah. And this is where the stupid shit is. I went to this is basically what happened. I went to the physio and I said, look, I'm getting bored, I can't do sport, I've got a shoulder injury. Is there something I can do to sort of get my fitness back up? Like my mates play indoor soccer and they do all these other sports, and I want to sort of get out and do something without obviously jeopardising my shoulder. But also sort of get out there and enjoy myself. And obviously Defence Force is big on fitness. Like obviously they're big on teamwork and they're big on all this crap, and yeah, they basically drill it into you that this is what you need to be doing all the time. So yeah, I enjoy sport. I love sport. So I was quite happy to be fit and do all that sort of stuff. And I mean, I just had been cooped up at home with a shoulder injury. I sort of wanted to be out doing a little bit more than just sitting there watching TV. I wanted to be out there with my mates playing a little bit of sport. So basically what had happened, I clarified with my physio and said, right, what can I do for a sport that I'm not going to jeopardise my shoulder? And she said, well, there's not really too many sports that you can play that you could essentially do that you wouldn't be risking your shoulder. And I said, well, look, my mates play indoor soccer, and they said, look, come down, we need an extra teammate. Do you mind being goalie? And I said, well, because obviously indoor soccer, and for those people that play indoor soccer, it's actually quite a fairly hefty contact sport. It actually can get quite quite a bit of contact. So I knew that I couldn't play on the actual field, so I said, well, how about goalie? Because technically no one's allowed it in that little section. The goals only come up so high on the body, so I don't have to sort of reach up sort of up here to stop the ball, which my arm physically couldn't do anyway. So she said, look, as long as you don't push yourself, like you know your own limits, heavily strap it, do all this stuff to make sure that you're not going to injure yourself. Otherwise, look, I'd encourage you to get out there and sort of, be amongst your mates. I mean, you're not doing per se like lots of running or anything like that, but I was in Cairns, and even running not even running, like sort of dashing jogging in from this section of the freaking circle to this section of the circle, you got quite hot, so you worked up a sweat. So I mean, it wasn't like you weren't doing anything, and no one came in contact with me, which was good as well. But so yeah, I mean, it almost sounds like I've got to justify myself for trying to keep fit, which is what the Navy wants me to do, but yet made me feel like I was doing something wrong because they told me to go, well, you're not allowed to do anything, you're MEC 301, you can't do work, so therefore you have to go home, sit on your ass, otherwise you're considered fit, that you've got to come back here and start lifting boxes, because I was in stores and that was my job. So I was trying to do the right thing by getting my fitness back up so that I didn't waste away before returning to work, that my life would be harder, that trying to get my fitness back up again. So trying to do the fucking right thing, and cutting that long story short, I never injured myself, no one came in contact with me, I never did anything that was going to jeopardise my shoulder because I was in enough pain as it was. But because the petty officer medic was someone that played indoor soccer as well, he just so happened to see me there, and he's not someone that I said hello to on a regular basis, but just because Cairns was a small base, you sort of recognise faces, and he obviously, after having shoulder surgery and being in there a few times, he obviously recognised who I was, and basically went back to work the next day and said, guess what, this freaking able seaman was out playing sport when he shouldn't have been doing sport. And it's like, okay, so I get a clearance from my physio to say that I can do this, and at the time, this is my first injury, I didn't know the exact protocols on who I needed permission from to play sport. I mean, I had no fucking idea, but I mean, I'm just trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to improve myself, trying to get my own fitness level up, and they freaking pounce on me like I've just committed freaking mass murder. So basically, because he's seen me, he comes into work the next day and says to his boss, right, this able seaman should be back in here, I saw him playing soccer, so we should need to review his medical status, even though it was just done the day before, and we need to get him fit for sea. And conveniently at the time, my boat that I came off of needed someone to go back to sea, so yeah, it was the ideal time to slot me back in. So sure enough, I get to work the next day, incredibly sore from even doing the minute amount of sport that I actually did, and taken into the doctor's office, the same doctor that just gave me the medical status of 301 not fit, and he turned around and said, I understand you played sport last night. And I said, well, no, not really. I sat in the goals, and explained the whole thing to him, and he went, well, that's not the understanding I have, so we're going to change your medical status to Medcat 201 with restrictions. So now you're fit enough to go to sea. So now we're going to have you fit enough to go back on the boat. So that is what they did. And I made my notes in the thing to say that I disagreed with that. Not like anybody listens to it or does anything about that. You make the note, but who gives a shit? No one's accountable for it. The fact that I injured myself 3 months later to the same fucking shoulder, and now I fucking have chronic pain because I had to have a second surgery on my shoulder. So the Navy fucked my shoulder more than me going out and playing 20 to 30 minutes of soccer, indoor soccer, which freaking I had heavily strapped and had restricted myself to doing so much. But because the Navy freaking thought, well, we'll take it upon ourselves to do something about this because he shouldn't be doing this, they basically tell the doctor that, no, you should be changing his medical status.
I'd just like to add, though, if that practice is going on, then I need to know about it because that's illegal. and it actually would be a real consideration from the Medical Board of Australia as well.
That's negative
if
impact
people
from
were
doing
told to change records, in fact, because we police that very carefully, and we would want to know, and we would probably look seriously about if the medical officer did change it, whether they should be continuing to be employed by us.
For Senator Lambie to sit there and ask these ADF personnel, basically, is this going on, and then basically acting dumb and going, oh, well, that's atrocious, if this is going on, this needs to be stopped, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, fuck off, as if you don't know about it. Like, unless you're living with your head firmly up your own ass and you don't know what's going on, there's something seriously fucking wrong, because that is just fucking bullshit. When the doctors were on the payroll, easy money for them. I mean, they don't give a shit. I mean, half my medical documents were missing, half the medical documents weren't even filled in correctly, so half the shit that I've got wrong with me, I can't claim for because of the lack of information that is in my fucking file. Like, I've got a back injury that I got from lifting stores that was a part of my job, and the only note that's in my medical file is patient complained of a back injury that he got yesterday or something like that. It was literally like the smallest of paragraphs, and that is all that's in my medical file. Nothing about the fact that my doctor grabbed my knees and pulled them across my chest. Nothing about that they issued me with anti-inflammatories that night. Nothing about that I couldn't walk the next day because my back was that bad. There was no notes in it at all, and half the shit is there. I've broken my nose when I was on HMAS Paluma, and that record isn't in there. Yet I saw the OSA come out because when I got back to Cairns, my mates knew about it. They knew that it was me that busted his nose because they saw the signal for it. Yet all that documentation is missing. Even the Freedom of Information documentation doesn't have it. Don't worry, there's more. I'm still reviewing this video's gone longer than I expected.